I stood in our kitchen, clutching divorce papers, as my husband, Arjun, smirked. "You're getting nothing, Maya," he said, tossing a pen at me. "Sign it and move on." My heart sank. We'd been married for 8 years, building his tech startup together. I'd quit my job as a lawyer to manage the books, negotiate deals, and make his dream real. Now, he was leaving me for his assistant, Priya, claiming I'd contributed nothing. I was 34, jobless, and blindsided. His lawyer, smug as Arjun, handed me the settlement, a measly $10,000. "Take it or fight and lose," he said. I felt the room spin, but then I remembered our prenup. Arjun had rushed through it years ago, barely reading it. I'd insisted on a clause, buried on page 7, to protect myself. He didn't know what was coming. That night, alone in our guest room, I pulled out the prenup. Page 7, Clause 12, if Arjun initiated a divorce without cause, I'd get 50% of his company shares and assets. My hand shook as I read it. This was my lifeline. I called my old law school friend, Tara, now a top divorce attorney. "He's in for a shock," she said, laughing. I didn't sleep, planning my next move. Arjun thought he'd won. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I didn't confront Arjun right away. I played the broken wife, signing his papers with a shaky hand while Tara prepared our case. "Let him think he's won," she said. I moved into a small apartment, using my savings. Arjun and Priya were already parading around, posting on X about their new chapter. It stung, but I stayed focused. Tara dug into Arjun's company, Tech Trend, now worth $20 million. I'd helped build it, securing investors, streamlining operations. Page 7 would give me half. I gathered evidence, emails, contracts, even my old notebooks where I'd sketched business plans. Tara was impressed. "This is airtight," she said. Meanwhile, Arjun was clueless, throwing lavish parties, assuming I'd fade away. I worked odd jobs, freelance consulting, tutoring, to stay afloat. At night, I studied Tech Trend's finances, spotting sloppy moves Arjun was making without me. He was overpaying vendors, losing clients. Perfect. His mistakes would make my case stronger. Tara filed a motion, keeping page 7 under wraps. We'd reveal it at the right moment. I saw Arjun at a cafe once, laughing with Priya. He didn't notice me. Good. I was invisible, but not powerless. My revenge was coming, and it would be nuclear. The divorce hearing was a circus. Arjun's lawyer painted me as a gold digger, claiming I'd done nothing for Tech Trend. Arjun sat there, smirking, Priya at his side. I stayed calm, Tara whispering, "Wait for it." When it was our turn, Tara presented my evidence, years of emails, contracts I'd negotiated, even testimonials from early investors praising my role. The judge raised an eyebrow. Then Tara dropped the bomb. "Your Honor, page 7 of the prenup, Clause 12. She read it aloud, 50% of Arjun's shares and assets if he initiated divorce without cause. Arjun's face went pale. His lawyer scrambled, claiming it was unfair. The judge wasn't impressed. "He signed it," she said. The courtroom buzzed. Arjun glared at me, but I met his eyes. I wasn't the weak wife he'd dismissed. The judge ordered a valuation of Tech Trend. Tara estimated my share at $10 million, plus half his personal assets, house, cars, savings. Arjun stormed out, Priya trailing. That night, Tara and I celebrated with cheap wine. "He never saw it coming," she said. I felt alive, powerful. But it wasn't over. Arjun would fight, and I needed to protect my claim. I started planning my next move, using my share to rebuild my life. Point 4, the power shift, 600 words. The court's ruling shook Arjun. Tech Trend's board panicked, my 50% share gave me control. I didn't want to run the company, I wanted leverage. Tara suggested I negotiate a buyout. "Make them sweat," she said. I met with Tech Trend's board, who begged me to sell my shares. Arjun was there, silent, fuming. I named my price, $12 million. They agreed, desperate to stabilize the company. I walked away with a check, plus half of Arjun's $3 million in personal assets. He was left with crumbs compared to his ego. I heard he and Priya were fighting, her new chapter wasn't so shiny now. I moved to a cozy house, my own sanctuary. With the money, I started a consulting firm, helping startups grow. My first client was a women-led tech company, and I poured my heart into it. They thrived, and so did I. My firm, Empower Grow, gained traction fast, with clients praising my strategic mind. I posted about it on X, subtly shading Arjun's downfall. He saw it, I knew from his bitter likes. But I wasn't just gloating. I was rebuilding, stronger. Arjun's company was losing clients, his reputation tarnished. I'd taken half his empire, and he'd never recover. Still, the hurt lingered. I'd loved him once. Now, I was learning to love myself. Empower Grow grew faster than I expected. Within a year, I had 10 clients and a small team. I hired Ria, a brilliant analyst who'd faced her own betrayals. We bonded over coffee, building a company that empowered others. My firm was valued at $5 million, and I was invited to speak at a women's business conference. I shared my story, without naming Arjun, focusing on resilience. The crowd cheered, and I felt unstoppable. Arjun, meanwhile, was sinking. Tech Trend stock plummeted, and he was ousted as CEO. Priya left him, posting cryptic X updates about moving on. I didn't care. My focus was my empire. I launched a mentorship program for young women in tech, teaching them to protect their worth. One mentee, Sonia, reminded me of myself, hungry, underestimated. I gave her a job, and she shone. My house became a hub for my team, filled with laughter and ideas. But late at night, I'd think of Arjun's smirk, his "you're getting nothing." Page 7 had flipped the script. I was thriving, but I wanted more, not revenge, but impact. I planned a national expansion for Empower Grow, aiming for $20 million in revenue. Arjun thought he'd broken me. He was wrong. I was just getting started. One day, an old tech trend investor, Mr. Sharma, reached out. He'd always liked me, calling me the real brains behind the company. I want to invest in Empower Grow, he said, offering $2 million. I was floored. With his backing, we opened a second office and hired more staff. Empower Grow hit $10 million in revenue, and I was on magazine covers as the woman who rebuilt herself. Mr. Sharma became my mentor, sharing business wisdom over chai. You're not just winning, he said. You're changing the game. He was right. My mentorship program grew, training 100 women a year. Sonia became my right hand, running operations like a pro. I heard Arjun was working a low-level tech job, his empire gone. Priya was engaged to someone else. I felt a twinge of pity, but it passed. I was too busy. Empower Grow landed a contract with a global retailer, boosting our valuation to $15 million. I started a podcast, Rise Above, sharing stories of women overcoming betrayal. It went viral, with thousands of downloads. Listeners sent letters, saying I'd inspired them. I was building more than a company, a movement. But Arjun's shadow lingered. I wanted him to see my success, to know Page 7 was my victory. 2 years after the divorce, Empower Grow was in 5 countries, with $25 million in revenue. I spoke at a global tech summit, sharing my journey. The audience gave a standing ovation. My podcast had 1 million listeners, and my mentorship program trained 500 women. I opened a foundation to fund women-led startups, giving $1 million in grants. Sonia ran it, her passion matching mine. Arjun reached out, asking to meet. I agreed, curious. At a cafe, he looked worn, apologetic. I didn't read Page 7, he admitted. I was wrong. I nodded, unmoved. I'd forgiven enough to move on, but trust was gone. Back at work, I launched a new service, AI consulting for startups. It was a hit, adding $5 million to our books. Empower Grow was valued at $50 million. I bought a beach house, a place to think. Tara and I vacationed there, laughing about page 7. "You're a legend," she said. I was starting to believe it. Arjun's name faded from the industry, mine was everywhere. I wasn't just surviving, I was leading. My next goal was a public offering, taking Empower Grow to $100 million. Page 7 had given me a start, but my work was my triumph. Empower Grow became a beacon for women in tech. We had 1,000 ments and offices in 10 cities. My foundation funded 50 startups, creating jobs and dreams. I wrote a book, Page 7, Rising from Betrayal, a bestseller. Readers called it their guide to resilience. I saw Arjun at a charity event, working security. He nodded, ashamed. I smiled politely and moved on. My life was full, Tara, Sonia, my team. We launched a free training platform, reaching 10,000 women globally. Our AI consulting arm grew, signing a $10 million deal with a tech giant. Empower Grow's valuation hit $80 million. I started dating again, meeting Vikram, a kind professor who admired my drive. He wasn't threatened by my success, unlike Arjun. We took things slow, building trust. My podcast featured women like me, their stories echoing mine. Listeners sent gifts, letters, bracelets, thanking me. I framed one letter from a girl who'd started her own company because of me. Arjun's mistake was a distant memory, replaced by purpose. I was planning a global summit for women entrepreneurs. Page 7 was my spark, Empower Grow was my fire. The Empower Grow Summit was my biggest risk. We rented a convention center, inviting 5,000 women, entrepreneurs, ments, investors. I spent months planning, barely sleeping. The event was electric, workshops, speeches, networking. I gave the keynote, sharing my story, from a betrayed wife to a global leader. I mentioned Page 7, and the crowd roared. The summit trended on X, with hashtag EmpowerGrow going viral. We hit 2 million podcast listeners that week. A news outlet called me the Queen of Comeback. Empower Grow signed 20 new clients, adding $15 million in revenue. Vikram was there, cheering. We got engaged, planning a quiet wedding. Arjun sent a letter, congratulating me. "I'm sorry," he wrote. I didn't reply. I was done with him. My foundation funded 100 more startups, and our training platform reached 50,000 women. I was 36, living a life I'd built from nothing. Page 7 had saved me, but my grit made me. I planned a second summit, aiming bigger. Arjun was a footnote, I was the story. My team, Sonia, Tara, Vikram, was my family now. I was ready for the next chapter. 3 years after the divorce, Empower Grow was worth $120 million, with 20 offices and 5 million platform users. My foundation trained 100,000 women, and my book inspired a TV series. I spoke at the UN, advocating for women in tech. Vikram and I married, surrounded by ments and friends. Arjun attended, sitting in the back. He was rebuilding, working a small job. I wished him well, silently. My summit became an annual event, drawing 10,000 attendees. We launched a venture fund, investing $50 million in women-led startups. Empower Grow went public, valued at $200 million. I stepped back as chairman, letting Sonia lead. My legacy wasn't just money, it was the women I'd lifted, the dreams I'd funded. Page 7 was my weapon, but my heart was my strength. Arjun thought I'd get nothing. He didn't know I'd take everything, my power, my purpose, my life. I was Maya, the woman who turned betrayal into a global movement, and I was just beginning.